I don't have a script.
All right.
Okay, so this is a short primer on what we know so far about this, which is basically experiment, have fun, and as long as it doesn't burn or explode, it's okay to try it. First thing you need is plastic of some sort that is thermally based. It works well with PET. It also works well with, I think we tried it with PVC, or...
I think we did a lot of polystyrene.
Polystyrene works very well. Yeah, so PET is almost idiot-proof in about the 32nd or 16th inch thickness. Polystyrene can go a bit thicker. It's also almost idiot-proof. And then there's things that we're trying as well, such as flexible, cheap shelf liner from Dollarama. There's also flatter stuff like this that you could get at IKEA. And we've tried some vinyl shower curtain, and it's a little bit too wimpy. Basic idea, vinyls seem to work. And I'd try anything as long, just put it on, see if it works. As to the process, the overall system, you have a platform that goes up and down. You have a aperture here, which is basically it holds the plastic, and it also acts as the vacuum seal. So everything depends on this aperture at this level to make sure it works. And we have a clamp that holds the plastic in place, like this. And we have what really is a very good pizza toaster that comes across, and when the plastic's in place, you toast the plastic. What we've learned is you can look at the temperature of the plastic, and that gives you some idea, but the real proof is to look at the plastic and see how far it's drooped. And when it's drooped about half of the way down to whatever you're trying to form, you've drooped far enough. These dials are core temperature, then a ring on the outside and the very outside. And depending what you're cooking, you may, if you're just doing small internal forms, maybe you just want to heat them inside. If you're doing a bike helmet like we're going to try, maybe you actually heat the outside the most because it's doing the most stretch.
Is there a master on-off, or is it just all by the dials?
It's just by the dials, or plugging it in. It's not 120, it's 220, and in our shop here, you use the big heavy extension cord, and you go over to the same thing as runs the, I think, the laser. So, and plug it in. It won't plug in anywhere else. You heat everything up, and then when it's nice and hot, you simultaneously raise the work that you've put on here, that you have to put in before you put the plastic on. You raise it up and you turn on the vacuum. And if you have the right temperature and the right speed, you'll get it to suck. Once it's all formed, then you can reverse the pump and it will blow the plastic off. So that's useful if you're doing stuff like PET where it's hard and it wants to form around it.
So it helps you release the plastic?
It helps you release, yeah. It may not be what you want to do with a flexible plastic because you can pull that off, and if you do it with a flexible, what we're seeing is that when it's still warm, you can deform it. So you want to, if you're doing something hard like PET, it will let you debond it a little bit. If you go beyond the 180-degree form with something hard, you're not going to get it off. So you have to design whatever you're molding to make sure you can get it out afterwards. Or with something like a bike helmet, maybe you do want to wrap it and you don't really care. We will now go through the process of actually forming something. So what we'll do first is I'll have my lovely assistant put the helmet in the right place. You always put it in so that you maximize the amount of forming material around it. and then you put it down and you forget about it. Then you take your plastic that you're going to form with, in this case the cheapo shelf stuff, and if my lovely assistant can get the tape and the scissors. In this case, the shelf stuff has bumps. You want to have it on the upside so that the seal, the air seal on the bottom, is as good as it can be. And I guess if you're getting fancy, you might want to orient the pattern to suit whatever you're forming. You tape the perimeter and you hope it seals. There is a mechanical seal as well from pressure, but it's a little bit hot over there and it just doesn't seem to want to stick. So if you're doing it, bring your own tape because you'll go through a bunch of tape. Bring your own media. Expect to make at least 50% mistakes on your first day. So bring lots of media. There are places like Johnson Plastic, which is in South Etobicoke, and you can buy sheets of plastic from them, or you can just go to Dollarama and anywhere that you can get like acrylic, I'm sure would work. It's just getting the right thickness. Okay, so I've just trimmed it off and we'll seal it all shut. Meanwhile, of course, the heater has been heating. It's all nice and warm in the background. Preheating is useful because then you can at least predict what your timing will be after you mess up the first 2 or 3 tries. So you'll get an idea. But if you're just going from cold, you'll have no idea of it, no way to repeat whatever you just did. Okay, so you put the clamp down, or the top aperture down, and you clamp it shut. The machine does, it can make larger pieces. It's been reduced so that you don't waste too much plastic. Okay, so now you pull this over and you let it sit. Last time we did it, it took about 20 seconds. How are we doing on time?
Past 20 seconds.
20 seconds? Okay, let's see what it's looking like. Okay, if we look at it, it's sort of drooping, but it's actually, we're almost there. So we'll do another 3 or 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then all at once. Oh, and you can see that just popped, and that means, and it's the identical location from before, it's pulled a hole through the plastic at the point of the most expansion. So it's basically toast. It won't suck anymore. So we turn that off and then we let it sit.
So this material is likely too weak for such a prominent overhang or undercut?
Well, if this material is too flexible, if you blow it off, it'll cool in the wrong shape and it won't stick to the helmet. So that's why I don't want to reverse the vacuum on it. But you would on a stiffer plastic like PET. PET, it really grabs, so you want to blow it off at the very last moment and then let it cool. And this is still pretty hot. More or less it's done. When you're designing things or figuring out what you're forming, things like this major hole at the front, it's the location of the most expansion or change in dimension. First of all, it's pulled around the helmet and then it's been pulled into the hole and it's popped. When you're designing your own shape, you'll probably want to fill things like that with putty so that it just won't get sucked in there. And if you do that, then other things like this area around here that's not fully pulled in will pull in. And in this case, to get a good forming of it, we probably should put the helmet on a short pedestal and then the plastic would fully pull in underneath it. So that's basically it. Once it's done, then you take off the clamps. You remember to turn off, once you're really done, you turn off your heaters so you don't burn the place down afterwards and you don't hurt yourself. Maybe we'll cut it. Yeah, in this case we'll cut it over there. Our experience is when it's this type of thing, you cut it in place, it stays on. If you try to take the whole thing off, you're likely to misalign it. And I think if you were doing it on a bike helmet, you'd probably want to leave it put. If you had raised it up, it would have sucked in underneath and you'd have a very nice trim. You can see the points of the greatest expanse where it's pulled around and then pulled in, and it's just got too thin. So in the future, what you'd do is you would, on the second time, you'd put some plasticine in these locations and you'd know that it couldn't do that. And that's about it. Basically, experiment, have fun, try to make mistakes, see what you can do, and get us all excited about it. That's about it.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.